All right, what's going on, man? Boys and girls, back again. It's cool water. Uh, with the final installment to the African American Entrepreneurs Holocaust, with the theme being "Who Killed the Black Entrepreneur?" I'm gonna try to put the nail in the coffin tonight, and this will probably be relatively short because it's not gonna be a whole lot that I'm gonna go delve into. You got to listen to the past podcast to get the whole story, as they say. And I think I've done a pretty decent job. I mean, you could always go in deeper to the rabbit hole, but it's just so much information, man, that one would get lost. I tried to keep it surface level, but informative and entertaining as possible, so that you'll have something to grab hold to. So I'm gonna try to put the nail in the coffin. That just be the little last podcast that I do on this for right now. And then I'll start looking to probably take it offline and, bring some folks into the room, as they say, so we can talk about the subject matter face to face and, do some lecturing and things of that nature. Being that I got a teaching degree, it ain't really nothing but just like an extension of being in the classroom to me. I'll probably be looking for a couple of people. I got a cat now that I'm talking to who will help put the corporate feel to it, to slick it out and to make it look more professional and give it that corporation-like look, as they say, when the presentation is going on, so that you get the most out of this. But like I said, we're going to rock and roll, and I'm going to get this all the way back right real quick, because like I said, this is not going to be very long because there's nothing really left for me to delve into. So last week, just a quick recap, some of the things that I talked about to bring you back up to speed once again was which immigrant groups controlled the economy by 2000. What effects did the 80s crack era have on the 2000s till present day 2016, along with the war on drugs, because that also played a huge part. What industries are staples in the American economy? What has mass incarceration along with the prison industrial complex done for the corporations, and how that really still trends into today's modern day plantation, aka slavery? What effects has the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights had on African Americans via Dr. Claude Anderson's statement? And what year is the Asians supposed to surpass the Hispanics as the largest immigrant group? So I delved into that real quickly and talked about all of that. So I actually, it's funny because I got flagged by the Big Bad Wolf Universal Music Group. I actually had some Tupac in the last podcast in the beginning of the intro, and I uploaded it and got the Big Bad Wolf to make a comment. Now, they didn't really say take it down, but they stopped the revenue process, which is interesting. I also noticed I got my revenue process stopped with Donald Trump in the face of the new face of American terrorism. So that's interesting. It ain't no music in that, from what I remember. So I put these on YouTube. So it's going to be interesting to see, when I go in and really examine what the real issue is, because I need my stuff monetized. I'm about making this money, and that's part of the process. So, know somebody always watching. You ain't doing nothing without somebody watching. You think they don't be watching, but they're watching. Even folks who just podcast, they may not comment, they may not say much, but somebody clicking on that button, and the conversation may be, something unfamiliar, but they listening and they watching. So just keep pushing. Tonight, real quickly, like I said, I'm gonna look at the overall big picture of this lecture. We'll take an overall look at kind of what I did and how the African Americans can begin to move in the right direction. So That's kind of the goal. The objectives are, what does success really look like? What is capitalism? What is the game of capitalism? Give you a list of books and research sites for you to delve into. So this is kind of going to be a freestyle. It's not going to really be real detailed and precise, in a sense and structured. It's just something to kind of put the nail in the coffin and kind of get you moving in the right direction. So the first thing that we'll look at is, or I'll briefly speak about, is what does success look like now, considering that we went and started and talked about all the issues starting from the 16th century, slavery, all the way up until now. We have to begin to examine what success looks like, because most of the success that we've seen has come, or we know, and that has been given to us, has come from European culture. We got Asian culture. You see some Arab and Indian culture. We see success in that arena. And as African Americans, we base our success off of what they do. You feel me? So we really, it's a lot of successful African Americans out here. Let's not knock that. But at the same time, we also have to take into account that, being that we're not in the dominant culture controlling things, what we've been fed is what we know to be successful. And most of us are successful in the area of entertainment, playing basketball, singing, doing movies, acting, what have you. We're not successful in or we have not seen or really understood success in the manner as it relates to African Americans. So let me read something that Dr. Amos Wilson, the Blueprint for Black Power, stated. And the title of how I worded this when I typed it up is, "What is success and what it is not?" Individual success is determined by the social structure in which you operate. Individuals cannot succeed by themselves. I don't care how much brain you have, dream you have, or determination you have. You must operate in an economic and social structure that allows you to achieve your dream. If that social and economic structure does not exist, you can dream all you want, you will never get anywhere. In other words, individual success is social success, and social success is created by a national societal structure, not by individuals dreaming alone and pursuing their own self-interested dreams without regard to other individuals. Your strength lies in your ethnicity and your consciousness. You got to be teaming up, building relationships with folks that look like yourself. Now, naturally, you are going to embark and build relationships with people of other cultures. But as a whole, as it relates to African Americans, and why we don't have a great large amount of Black entrepreneurs, and why I said that the Black entrepreneur has been killed, is because we do not build together and what they call cooperative learning in the classroom. Is cooperative economics in business. You don't do the cooperative economics. And in order for you to be successful, you also have to understand that your how did he put this? Let me read that. You must operate. It said you can have all the dream. You can have as much dream as you want, determination as you want, but you must operate in an economic and social structure that allows you to achieve your dream. You have to be in an industry that will allow you, number one, to be cooperatively working with other people and scale up. Okay. Being able to tap into something that's going to allow you to leverage and have magnitude. You know what I'm saying? And grow socially. You see what I'm saying? The music industry is one of them places, because on the inside, it's a bunch of people collaborating, producing songs, songwriting. But then on the outside, there's also a bunch of people who socially are engaged in the buying, the listening, the participating, the commenting of artists and their artistic value. Okay. He also mentioned again, if that social and economic structure does not exist, the social And economic structure does not exist. You can dream all you want, you'll never get anywhere. So you could be all the brainiac you want, got all the determination, but if the industry, the niche you have, does not have a social component built into it, you can't build socially with the people that's in that niche, and the economic value of that niche doesn't go up in value. You ain't gonna get nowhere. And it's important that you understand that. It's important that you understand how you play the game and what success is as it relates to African Americans. And your consciousness is also part of it, because you got to understand what you're able to do consciously with being in a certain particular industry in a niche market or what have you, so that you can see some level of success. Okay. There was something in here that I wanted to get. Okay, and now this is Dr. Amos Wilson, who wrote the book, 900 pages long, called Blueprint for Black Power. Blueprint for Black Power, Dr. Amos Wilson. He passed away in the early 90s. I hate he died because he was so cold, so wicked with it. I would hate to see where he was at, because his audience was growing. And he had some real conversation for the folks that was in control and power. So it's interesting. He also mentioned something about values. Okay. Values are instruments of social control. The values you honor determine how you behave. Where your values are, there is your money. Where your values are, there is your intentions. Values are determinants of how people think and behave. So what you value is really what you leaning towards to get to your money. Like, I value helping people. You see what I'm saying? I got the humanitarian written on my back to a certain degree, because I'm not going to let you misuse me. But with that being said, I ain't finna do nothing in the porn industry. That's not my value. I don't have no interest in that. You see what I'm saying? I don't have no interest in selling alcohol and liquor. That's not my value. I got my morals is intact. I ain't trying to beat you. You know what I'm saying? But you gonna pay me for what my value was worth. You gotta pay. You gotta pay for the labor. You gotta pay for the. You gotta pay for the work. You feel what I'm saying? So that is very important when you start to look at what success is and what it's not, so that you can begin to get a clear understanding of what needs to be done so you can arrive at the goal. Okay. Now let's move on to what is capitalism. Okay. Now this is capitalism as it relates to Dr. Claude Anderson's statement. In the 1500s, capitalism was defined as learning how to own and control the land, the business, the resources, and use other people's labor to get rich. Labor to enrich yourself and your community. This is where slavery originates from. This is what we playing in today. Okay? Got to understand the history to understand the game is being played, because if you don't, you're going to end up getting shafted. And again, I told you all, once you come out that paradigm, that black paradigm, and you start to ascend economically, financially, and socially, you're going to run into other ethnicities. You got to have values. You got to have some culture about yourself. You got to have a moral and financial limit. You got to understand what capitalism is and what it ain't. Okay. And then he also mentions, now this is what capitalism is as it's defined by W.E. Du Bois. In 1915, W.E. Du Bois defined capitalism as follows. It's like having 4 ears of corn that you eat, save, and sell using the seeds for next year's harvest. Which game of capitalism are you planning on playing in? Most of us are playing in number one, where we try to own, control, and use the land, the business, the resource, and other people's labor to enrich ourselves. But most black folk don't know, unless you MBA, business management, unless you got them type of degrees, or you been in some business where you learn that. Most of us don't. We ain't playing that. We don't know we trying to play that. We trying to get somebody to buy something, and we trying to sell and buy. Trying to get somebody to sell something and buy something as a result of that being a means of capitalism for us to advance. Okay. Okay, let's take a look. What is the game of capitalism? Now, this is defined by Rich Dad, Poor Dad author, Cash Flow Quadrant author, Robert Kiyosaki. The game of capitalism. The name of the game of capitalism is who is indebted to whom. The more people you are indebted to, the poorer you are. And the more people you have indebted to you, the wealthier you are. This is the game. If you take on debt personally, make sure it's small. If you take on large debt, make sure someone else is paying for the debt. That's what they call using other people's money. Okay. So you got to understand this game called capitalism, because the name of the game is to have somebody giving you money, have somebody paying you. Now, slavery, what they do, they didn't get paid, but their labor was the wealth that was used to enrich, you know what I'm saying, the slave owners and European nations and so forth, as a result of that game called capitalism. Okay, now that's defined by Robert Kiyosaki, and we need to understand this now. Amos Wilson also has a statement as it relates to the game of capitalism. And again, that's what I say, the African consciousness is important, because in order for you to understand, you got to understand both dynamics of the game called capitalism, from white European values and African values. And you got to know how to play both sides of the fence so that you can begin to arrive at the goal. Okay. This is Amos Wilson. Capitalistic people are not capitalists. They believe in destroying competition. They believe in monopolies. Going back to those ethnicities, the Irish, the Italians, the Jews, the Poles. You know, these folks play the game of capitalism with the intent of becoming a monopoly. Okay? So capitalistic people are not capitalists. They believe in destroying competition. They believe in monopolies. No nation or group of people has made it to the upper echelon playing by the rules. They have always operated in terms of protecting their markets and getting a free ride off African Americans. Okay? So it's important that you understand that, because ain't nobody really doing it by the book. The book was invented to keep your ass from learning the rules so they can manipulate you and take what they needed to take from you. You feel me? So you have to understand the game of capitalism as it relates to African Americans. Again, when you look out at the landscape, most black folks are not interested in entrepreneurship, creating small businesses, creating an economy, building banks, building grocery stores, healthcare facilities. It's just not something we into, a lot of us, because we've been handed the blueprint by somebody else's culture on how you live. Don't go for wealth, and definitely don't go for self, and don't begin to try to move towards economic freedom. We just need you to stay in one place, and that's work, nigga. And that's what we want you to do. And until you start to break down the dynamics, you're going to continue to be in a box. As Dr. Anderson said, you locked in box, because we the fourth permanent underclass now. You know, we used to be number 3, but the Hispanics have moved past us. Then the Asians, now the Europeans. They're the 3 folks that is in front of us. And that's why we as a people are struggling. And you see the crime, you see the black on black violence, you see, you know what I'm saying, the unemployment rate. You see all of this as a result of that being said. And then when you look out, like I said last week, talked about folks in the neighborhood, you know what I'm saying, the Vietnamese, the Koreans, the Japanese, the Chinese, the Arabs, the East Indians, all of these folks, along with the corporations, sucking money right out the community. And you don't know it, you don't think nothing about it, because they're giving you what you want. You think that's cool, I'm getting what I need, I take it back to the house. But at the end of the day, it don't help. It doesn't help your dollar bounce at all from one black hand to the next. Okay. Real quick. Okay. I'm going to rattle off a list of books. I rattled off some before, and I'm going to rattle these off again. Books I would suggest you get and begin to delve into. I put Entrepreneurship's Most Prolific Books. These are books that I have read, and they help me grow and learn more. Invisible Capital by Chris Rabb. Cash Machine, Laurel Langmeyer. Black Labor, White Wealth. Black Labor, White Wealth, Dr. Claude Anderson. Powernomics, Dr. Claude Anderson. Blueprint for Black Power, Dr. Amos Wilson. Fast Lane Millionaire, MJ DeMarco. The Personal MBA, Josh Kaufman. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. Cash Flow Quadrant, Robert Kiyosaki. E-Myth, Michael Gerber. Entrepreneur Mind, Kevin D. Johnson. The Wealth Choice, Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. These are psychology books that deal more with understanding of capitalism and its social structure than how businesses are ran, developed, or created. The personal MBA may have a little more delving into as far as the business aspect, but these are more mental books so that you can get a good foothold on what you need to get a hold of. Let's see. I'm gonna rattle this off too. Let's see here. The American Dream. Okay, what is the American Dream? The American Dream was for whites only. Now, this is via Dr. Claude Anderson. Some of y'all ain't gonna like this, but it's cool, but it gotta be dealt with. And I'm saying it, it's not to be racist. It's just that we have to understand the history and the complexity of the system that you in so you can play the game to win, period. What is the American Dream? The American Dream was for whites only. Whites were coming to this country from Europe for two things that made up the American Dream. One, free Indian land. Two, free black labor. The American Dream was coming to America getting unearned benefits if you were an immigrant. Today, there are no slaves, but the unearned benefits are still in effect for all immigrants. The American Dream was not for African Americans. You can't be part of the American Dream. You were the dream. To get a slave meant that you was achieving the American Dream. Keep that in mind because that's how this country was built. The dream was for Europeans. Whites didn't have to work. They were getting unearned benefits from the slaves. They got free labor during slavery, which allowed them to get unearned benefits. All they had to do was own a black person. When slavery ended, Wall Street was created to allow whites to continue to get unearned benefits by investing in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities, etc., etc. 87% of all the wealth earned that whites live off of in this country is unearned benefits. Whites just push paper around and get wealth from all their unearned benefits. Wall Street replaced the back of a slave. Dr. Claude Anderson, Powernomics. You need to understand that. It's important that you understand that. Now, you also need to understand what racism is. Racism ain't really got nothing to do with color. We're talking about power and wealth. Okay, talking about power and wealth. That's why I started from the 16th century. Who killed the black entrepreneur? This is the complexity of what it is and what was done to African American entrepreneurs who tried to aspire coming out of the Emancipation Proclamation during Lincoln's so-called Emancipation Proclamation, getting into sharecropping, going through coming out the slave codes, the black codes, Jim Crow. This is what you got to understand why I said who killed the black entrepreneur, because we had every industry covered. We had every person you could think of that could do everything in the world until these laws got put in place. Now, what is racism? Via Dr. Claude Anderson from the Powernomics Corporation. Racism is a group concept that never existed on the planet until the 1500s. Racism is a competitive relationship between groups of people that are competing for ownership, control of resources, power, and wealth. Don't have nothing to do with color. Okay? Don't have nothing to do with color. Let's keep that in mind. All right? Most people get that misconstrued because that's the hook and the crook. That's what keeps you off your A game. All right. Now, I want to talk real briefly about the Horatio Alger Myth. Okay. Now, like I say, this is kind of, I'm just hitting and missing. There's no real structure with this. So, but we freestyling because you need to know, what it is and what it's not. All right. The Horatio Alger Myth. Many people have never heard of this. Horatio Alger Myth is where the rugged individual gains fame and fortune through frugality, thriftiness, dogged determination, and creativity. Remember, this is a myth. Okay. The Horatio Alger Myth is where the rugged individual gains fame and fortune through frugality, thriftiness, dogged determination, and creativity, or marry into wealth, or through a convenient receipt of a huge helping hand from some doting wealthy benefactor. The principal means by which white men gain wealth and power is through aggressive, ruthless, race-based organizations. The history of white America, capitalism, and the wealth creation and the generation of near tyrannical white political economic power is replete with organizations and violent operations of white race-based cartels, syndicates, rings, private armies, gangs, and thugs. Going right back to these early immigrant groups that came in. They didn't come in shaking no hands, saving their pennies up, waiting on some fantasy. They took what they wanted through violent operations, violent operations of white race-based cartels, syndicates, rings, private armies, gangs, and thugs. You got to understand that. You got to understand how this country was built. You got to understand why folks is up and you ain't. These folks killed for theirs. The mafia came and took theirs. They didn't go to work 60 hours a week trying to save their pennies. You know what I'm saying? It's only these other later immigrant groups that came in who coming in, getting stores and selling you fish, hair, nails. They doing it the long way, but they still getting rich. But these folks, the Irish, the Italians, the Jews, Poles, I don't want to say, I ain't even gonna put the Cubans in there, but they might be, they're done a little bit. I didn't get all my info on that. This is how they came up. It's called the Horatio Alger Myth because the Horatio Alger Myth is what they sell you. All you gotta do is work hard, be frugal, save, invest, and you possibly can build wealth in that regard. And that's a myth. Okay. Now, next question is, what is wealth? Okay. We got to understand it. We got to understand what is wealth. Wealth is the fruit of any labor stored through inheritance, reparations, or profit off someone else's labor. The less a worker is paid for labor, the more wealth the owner of the business or land gains. Increased business ownership and reparations are the best means for blacks to gain wealth. Let me read that again. Increased business ownership and reparations are the best means for blacks to gain wealth. There are two basic methods to achieve wealth. It can be recreated or acquired through distribution, through owning and controlling resources. Okay? So you create something, you sell it, get it out to the right platform, it gets distributed, you make a lot of money. Okay? Or you own and control the platforms or the resources, and people come to you and you charge a price for that, so on and so forth, and you get rich that way. The secret to creating wealth is to own and control resources, whether they are natural, which involves around land, water, precious minerals, and metals. 2, process, machinery, factories, consumer items, or public improvements. Or 3, human capital, skilled, literate labor force. Those are the 3 ways in which you get to the money. So like myself, I'm kind of in the middle of 2 and 3. I use some skilled, literate labor force in some degrees because I also outsource and hire people to do work for me. And then I also sell some items, some consumer items. I use certain things that are now really right now falls into the digital realm, but they're still consumer items. Okay. So natural, process, human capital are the 3 ways in which you create wealth. There is no wealth potential in public housing, food stamps, petty crime, drug use, or teenage pregnancy. There is no wealth potential in a job. It is the owner and the producer of the job who has the wealth potential. A job is designed to maintain a worker from payday to payday and to keep workers 1 week away from the welfare or unemployment line. So you need to understand what wealth is because you have to understand what you're doing to try to obtain it. Okay. Wealth. Okay. And how you obtain wealth. To accumulate financial wealth, you need to attract large sums of money. To attract large sums of money, you need 3 things: control, leverage, and magnitude. Okay, you got to be able to control the situation you in. You got to be able to leverage it. You got to be able to go from the bottom to the top and get in front of a wide audience, get in front of a lot of people. And then you got to have magnitude, which goes into the number of either things being sold or the number of people that want what you have. Or you in front of a large platform, which is magnitude. Now, the leverage is, say, you using a particular platform like Amazon. Okay, so because Amazon has the larger market share. You go in, you leverage Amazon to get to a larger marketplace so you can sell in Brazil, India, Colombia, Asia, China, Japan, Australia, America, Europe. You leverage Amazon to help you make a lot of money. So you need three things to get to obtain wealth: control, leverage, magnitude. You got to have those three, okay? That's very important. I'm going to read off a little bit about, quickly list the top people who control the U.S. economy from the 1800s, because you got to also understand that these people, they started out small. Some of these immigrants came through, started out small, and they grew. And it's stuff that we participate in today, okay? Hold on just a second. I'm just writing something down. I'm kind of, like I say, this is freestyle. I'm going to put the nail in the coffin. Okay, and this is kind of going through my notebook. I didn't anticipate on doing this, but I figured I'd go ahead and throw this out there real quick. List of top people who control the U.S. economy. Joe Walgreens, okay? We all go to Walgreens pharmacy, store and buy and use their pharmacy and whatever else they got. Sam Walton, Walmart. Forrest Mars, Mars Candy, Henry Ford, Ford Motor Company, J.P. Morgan and Chase Bank, Frank W. Woolworths, if you from up north in the Midwest, Cincinnati, Ohio, you know about Woolworths. Samuel Coke, the beer Coke 45, Dodge Brothers, Dodge Ram, Al Neiman and Herbert Marcus, Neiman and Marcus Department Store. Bernard H. Kroger Grocery Stores, Richard Warren Sears and Roebuck. Now I heard a black dude was in part of he was part of it as well, which I have him listed too. Alva C. Roebuck. So the white guy and the black guy did get together during this time period in the early 1800s, which is old money from the 1800s till now. And they started Sears and Roebuck. So this brother had some entrepreneurial sense about him, and he linked up with somebody who was actually willing to let him get some of this money and come up. Joseph and Lyman, Bloomingdale Department Store, Milton Hershey Chocolates, E.I. DuPont du Numerals Chemical Company, DuPont Chemical Company, you know about them. Roland Hussey Macy Department Stores. I'm sorry, his name is Roland Hussey Macy's Department Store. We all shop at Macy's. James Cash Penney, J.C. Penney's Department Store. If you ain't been to J.C. Penney's in your lifetime, I don't know why. McDonald's Brothers, McDonald's Restaurants via Ray Kroc, Colonel Harlan Sanders, KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Glen Bell. These is moving closer toward the modern day. Taco Bell, Phil Knight, Nike Shoes, Doris Fisher, Gap, Bill Gates, Microsoft Computers. Now these, again, are a list of top people who control the U.S. economy. Old money from 1800s till now. Now it's more. I didn't go into depth because there's more research to be done on that. But those are things that you need to take into consideration because, again, set the blueprint. How these folks getting all this money? How these folks doing this? You got to understand how the game is being played. You know what I'm saying? And again, like Dr. Claude Anderson said, you know what I'm saying, when a white child is born, he got 87% of what he needs is in his church, is in his bank, is in his community. He can go out and touch it. He can touch it. You know, he can touch it from his family members. He can touch it from his church. So all you got to do is come up with a scheme in your head and persevere, as he puts it. You see what I'm saying? If you come up with a scheme, you stick with it. In America, if you are an white female, white male, you have a very good chance of success. Black folks don't have access to a lot of the capital, the banking. We can't get it from our mama. We can't get it from the church. We can't get it from the banks. We can't get it from our family, friends, cousins, what have you, because we just don't have it. You see what I'm saying? We didn't get it. We got neutralized. So keep that in mind. And let's see. I think that's going to about wrap this up. Let me read to you all places you can do your own research. Places you can do your own research so you can take this, what I've done, a step further and add to it. You know, maybe I'll meet somebody and they want to do something and we can take it a step further. Resources. U.S. Things that I talked about. Asians to surpass Hispanics, the largest group of U.S. immigrants by 2065. I got that out of the Associated Press, September 20th, 2015 article. Power Elite in America came out of the New York Times, NewYorkTimes.com. Look that up. News One, net worth of gangsters, because I wanted to know, what would they be at today? And also Wikipedia gave me the net worth of gangsters. YouTube, Motown Mafia document. Detroit, Eric Fat Man Johnson, talking about the black mob boss out of Detroit and how he rose to power. Dirty Little Secrets, Dr. Claude Anderson. That's the book. Black Labor, White Wealth, Dr. Claude Anderson. Household Wealth in the 1980s and 1990s. Bureau of Labor Statistics, U.S. Economic Advisors. That's the year 2004. Network Marketing is Not a Path to Riches. Study conducted by the Fidelity Investment Group 2012 is where you can look that up. Washington Post, Trump swam with the mob. That was in 2015 article. African organized crime, film, and television. I got that out of Wikipedia. You just have to look up organized African American organized crime, and it'll give you a list of those television shows from the 70s, 80s, and now. Drug Policy Alliance, drugpolicy.com, which gave me the insight on the crack era of the 80s and some war on drugs, Reaganomics, etc. Race Relations Encyclopedia, Racism in America was another book. How White Folks Got So Rich. And you can also look again, Blueprint for Black Power, which talks about the Horatio Alger Myth. It talks about other things in that book by Dr. Amos Wilson. So this ends the final installment of the African American Entrepreneurs Holocaust, Who Killed the Black Entrepreneur. I want you to take great consideration into the past and previous information that I have given you. I hope that this information has been beneficial to you. I want you to take this and study it on your own so that you can be well adapted and advised into how you want to start playing the game called capitalism, because this is a game. That's what it is. That's what it always has been. And African Americans have been left out. Hopefully, over the years, we'll see a much larger increase in entrepreneurship, and we will create industries that we own and control and can sit at the bargaining table with other ethnicities to be treated as men and women as such, to get the just due respect that we deserve. I'm Cool Water. You can find me all over the internet, Facebook, Cool Water 101, Twitter, Cool Water 101, LinkedIn, Mr. Alexander. LinkedIn, Cool Water 101, Google Plus, Mr. Alexander. If you want to email me, you can email me at 7 days. That's all spelled out, the number 9 at Gmail. If you have any comments, concerns, or questions. And check out the blog, Is Hip Hop Dead? ishiphopdead.com. And that's going to be about it. Shouts out to anybody and everybody in internet land. Thank you for allowing me to present this information to you. And I hope to possibly meet and do business with you in the future. Peace and stay blessed. Holla.